start recording, alright? We're live.
Yes, sir.
Right then, let's give this a go then.
Are you sure about the hat?
I'm
not trying to make you self-conscious.
It's for the clips.
It's for the clips.
Wow.
No, I'm not trying to make you
But
self-conscious.
it's funny.
It is funny.
It's like I'm going to be serious talking here in a British accent wearing a cowboy.
Okay.
This itself is content. I'm going to clip this conversation.
See, I'm not as bold as you, so you do you.
Right then.
The lighting actually works here. I was worried that it would mess up your... Yeah, no, that looks good.
Anyway, so we've started. How's it going?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I just got back from San Francisco, feeling good. Getting ready to apply for the O1 visa.
Is that still expensive?
Yeah, 10 grand. 10 grand down. Although I think, I don't know, like I've been looking into a lot about like kind of loans recently. This is one big thing that kept coming up is like you should move to San Francisco. And yeah, take out like a loan, even if it's like 10%, it could be worth it. What's your opinion on that?
A loan to subsidize the cost of the visa application?
Yeah, so say this, it's 10 grand, right? So me, 22, trying to work in tech. It could be a good idea to take out like a loan over 2 years as an investment into moving into America to be able to get like more opportunity, potentially more VC money, or, access to more users. Like, what would you think about that?
I think there's two schools of thought. One school of thought would be it makes sense to take the risk because the risk is relatively low for the potential upside of being in America. But that also assumes you have very tangible goals that you would want to accomplish in America that you don't feel that you can actually accomplish outside of America. The other school of thought would say probably isn't the best idea because you're going into debt. And some people just don't believe in debt. So instead, save as much as you can to be able to afford it comfortably before actually taking the plunge of doing it. If I were you, I would probably feel more pressure to take the loan and do it sooner because I think time is of the essence. But I'm also American, so I know that Americans have a different relationship with debt than Europeans.
Well, here's the thing I've been thinking about recently is, working with debt. So you had Trump in The Art of the Comeback. The guy famously said that the homeless man on the street is richer than him. So instead of now, like, imagine instead of like raising a really large round, and instead you took out like a huge loan. I kind of think as VC raising these days is like taking out a loan. Like you're basically taking out a loan on your reputation that you're going to be able to execute this. Like one thing I've realized is people that raise really large amounts of money feel really, really pressured to make it back. And it's kind of like a loan. Like they feel that they need to make that money back. Like, and you've raised large amounts of money. Like, do you feel the pressure from VCs that you need to repay them? Or do you more think it's like you raise money and then you might make it back, you might not. How do you think about that?
I don't know if it's healthy to think about it that way, but I do feel that I owe my investors some sense of debt. They were willing to take a bet on me, and the least I can do is give them a return on their investment. On paper, it might not be a loan, right? It might be something else, which is what mine was, venture funds. So, we sold equity in the company. I definitely feel a sense of responsibility. And also I have a fiduciary duty to do everything in my power to give a return to the investors.
So in theory, if you took out like $100 million loan, you personally, you could declare bankruptcy, right?
If I took out $100 million loan through a company and then the company declared bankruptcy.
Yeah. So why would you rather go for a venture investment where you have investors that pressure you, have to send a quarterly investor update? Why wouldn't you rather take out a loan? Or is this just something that you've never explored? It's one thing that I've been really thinking about a lot recently, rather than trying to pitch VCs that you work with debt.
So startups exist in, there's a book that outlines this that talks about startups as bundles of risk. And the earlier stage the startup gets, the more risk you would be exposed to by investing into it. For instance, like pre-seed, a lot of people believe in betting on the people because it's too early to know if the actual business is going to be successful. But by the time you get to Series A, there should be signs of product market fit and ideally some revenue that's coming in through the door. And the later the stage of the startup, the more it makes sense to consider raising on debt than equity, because it's also de-risked, right? The startup doesn't have
Found
to
product
consider.
market fit. You don't have to worry about
You
customer
found product market
acquisition.
fit. You don't have to worry about selling equity, because at that point, once you know those things, the equity is probably more valuable anyway. So it makes more sense to take a loan out. The problem for me with your question is, I don't know that I would even be able to convince people to give me $100 million in loans, because the reason that people are underwriting those checks in the startup world is extremely different than the types of people that would be underwriting loan checks. The loans that the banks are giving out and other individuals are designed to be de-risked, because they're not even looking for a 10x return. They're looking for what they gave and some interest, right? The principal and some interest.
Well, let's say this. Let's say you had a credit card, an Amex credit card. When I was 18, I got a American Express credit card, and I had a credit limit of 10 grand. If you couldn't raise from VCs, do you think spending that 10 grand theoretically on growing a startup, and this is just theoretically, but yeah, if you couldn't raise from VCs and you really needed that money, do you think that putting all of your expenses on a credit card and operating that business would like be an interesting idea, or would you rather just try and find product market fit and raise from like traditional investors or bootstrap? Like, if you had that option via like an untraditional vehicle like an Amex credit card.
I definitely would not do that. Like,
why?
I'm being kind of polarizing in this opinion, but I think that unless you have a business that you're going to be able to get some type of return on, and the capital is just a little bit further away. For instance, you're waiting on a payment for a customer that you just signed or something. Sure, like spend the 10K, go into debt. But if you're spending 10K on an idea that you have no idea is going to work out, the problem with credit card loans is that the debt compounds over time. 7% doesn't feel like too much the first time around, but if you keep riding that, riding the merry-go-round, that becomes super significant. And you've dug yourself into a hole that's more focused on paying the debt back than it is even building a successful business. So I definitely would never advise somebody to spend on a credit card unless, number one, their risk tolerance is through the roof, and for some people it might be. And number two, they have really, really a high level of confidence and conviction that the idea they're investing that money into is actually going to be able to produce the return that they're looking for.
Okay, all right. I feel you're warmed up now. So listen then, let's talk about you. You're a very close friend of mine. I think we've now worked together for 5 years maybe?
Something like that.
Really long
Pretty
time.
Close.
You've learned a lot, you've taught me a lot, and I think, one of these things I'm trying to do is really share this, to a wider audience. So let's go back to not the school days. I know you had what was that app you were telling me about, that dating app or something once that you made in your school. Let's not go there, but let's talk about Dino modules. When you were first working with my co-founder Martin, what was it that made you start? Like, how did you get started? Your story is really incredible, and it's really, it's just crazy. I tell some people that they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I used to work at this company called Community Labs, and this founder called Tate. Like, it's a crazy story, and a lot of people want to do that. I actually wanted to do that, and now I'm trying to do that, as you know. So how did you start? I know you had experience at school, but how did you get into these, Dino, like Nest.land? And explain what it is. Sorry, that's one thing I forgot to do. Thank you.
So the short answer to your question is completely by accident.
Okay.
0% intention. All just being in the right place at the right time. And that might be less of an interesting story than you give me credit for, so I appreciate it.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but one thing I've realized is, in the best decisions I've ever made in my life, they've been the most boring things, and the worst decisions I've ever made in my life have been the most exciting, mind-numbing adrenaline rush. I just wanted to touch on that. Yeah,
emotional decisions.
So, would you say that the boring things for you have always been the best?
It's a really
the
hard
best
question.
Things. Whenever you think about it, whenever you've made
Well, what I can definitely agree with is that if I'm making a decision that is impacted by emotion, the chance of it being good is probably not the highest. But if it's so boring that there's no reason to make an emotional decision other than pure logic itself, yeah, like that makes sense. That tracks, I think. But maybe to get back to your previous question, I was curious growing up. Like I was always looking at the edge of technology just because I wanted to be ahead of everything. I just wanted to understand where the world was going. I was always asking questions. Dino for me was interesting. Dino is an alternate JavaScript runtime, but in like English, it's just like another version of Node.js of JavaScript, which is like the most popular programming language in the world.
So in a really simple way, Dino just allows you to run code, right? Allows you to execute code.
Right.
Okay.
And that was created by someone that I had a lot of respect for because he created Node.js, which was, again, like the most popular thing for people to learn at the time when they were getting into writing code. So to hear that the founder of that thing was creating this new thing that no one knew about was like, oh, that's interesting. What is that? I want to go down that rabbit hole and figure it out. So I did. I had a few friends online that I had never met in person through Discord, and we were just like texting about it one day and decided to try to build something in Dino. And, one of the first problems that we ran into was Dino enabled you to import, and it enabled you to use other people's code in your own project with like a link. You could just put a link in and say, I want to use this code. And at first, everyone in Dino was like, this is super cool, super sci-fi, like it's never been that easy in JavaScript before. The problem that we really quickly realized, though, was wherever that link goes, if that changes or goes down, all of a sudden, anyone that is importing that link, all of their stuff breaks immediately. It just completely doesn't work. And so for me, like building on Dino was motivated by that problem. It was like, okay, this is a new technology. No one's heard of it before, and they're full of challenges like this. And that's actually not a super hard problem. Like, what if we could just make sure that the links never go down or change?
So it sounded like then. So you didn't obviously you didn't start out wanting to create anything, did you? You just saw some guy on the internet that you were kind of you thought had a lot of potential, and then you started with a problem and basically just kept going out of curiosity. Would you say that curiosity is the thing that's like, drives you, like it helps you make decisions, like in your decision making? So, a lot of people, like I speak to loads of people from my hometown. I grew up in a really small part of the UK, and now I work on a laptop, putting in keys. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it just is. Everyone's like, oh, what do you do, Lorimer? It's like, well, I'm a software developer and I do this, and they just think, okay, Lorimer just works on the computer. Like, in your decision making, like, so a lot of people, they think, okay, I'm going to go to university, then I'm going to get an internship, then I'm going to become an analyst, then I'm going to be like a managing partner or whatever. Like, so would you say your decision making is driven from curiosity rather than trajectory of a step plan?
It used to be a plan, for sure. Like, my life completely went off the rails when I turned like 16.
Why? What happened?
I started asking questions. I started being more openly curious about technology and exploring that and building things and trying stuff and just like figuring things out in my basement. Because I was bored. I was in the middle of a pandemic, also in a small town. There was nothing to do.
You're just bored, so you're like, let's see what happens.
So it's like, why not try and build something right now?
Do you still feel like that today? Do you still feel a little bit
Bored?
of boredom? No, but like, do you ever just, sometimes I wake up and I've got no idea what to do today. I'm looking at my to-do list. Oh, I don't want to do any of this. So I'm like, okay, let's make a website. Like, do you still like that to this day? Or do you think your decision-making from like, well, not your decision-making, but what you do with your time? Do you think it's changed, from when you were 16 in COVID? It
definitely has changed. My job is different. When I was 16, I had a lot of freedom. I didn't have responsibilities to other people. And now my job is to help other people get started and get off the ground, and also to help where I can actually like push those things along myself. But that job is extremely different than, going down rabbit holes that I find interesting for any random reason, and then deciding to build something spontaneously. It's a double-edged sword. I think that, you know, the good thing about it is I've always been someone that's seen the world for its problems, and so it's always been easy to identify where potential places to spend time might be.
Okay.
Because the problems are so obvious. But the downside of that is, you know, I feel even if I've made progress in one aspect of whatever my career might be, I always still just feel like there's so many problems that I just have to solve, like so many issues.
Do you feel you get overwhelmed by the amount of problems there are that you don't know which ones to choose?
I used to.
And now you think you cut through noise, or are you still trying to learn that skill?
I think that I'm honing it. I think that there are frameworks, different ways to think about making decisions that I never used to consciously consider. You know, they say that your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25.
Yeah.
So, like the idea of that is like wild to me.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, I actually it makes sense. Like the motivation for making a decision. Like when I first started building things, some of the first things I built were to like try and get a girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that was the only motivation. That was also enough, right? It didn't require anything more than that. And now, it's like, well, what's the upside? Like, what am I doing? Like, that's not. You know, I need to think about using my time differently for higher leverage purposes that can actually help the world rather than just me.
Do you ever think that's your magic though? That you were like, and I often sometimes think about this, you know, like when you're 16 in your basement and you're in COVID and you bought it's such an innocent story, and you've done very, you know, you're doing very well. I know, you know, obviously, our jobs are to build things and to acquire users. So I know you're by no means done, but you are doing well. Like, do you ever think the magic about you is that it was the innocence, that you were so innocent and you just had this little idea of like, you know, I have a problem with a Dino package. Do you ever think that is your magic in itself, that you are just a curious person, and that whenever you try to be this person, this big CEO, I know you don't, but this big CEO and you know, you're hiring and firing people, you're working with other teams. Do you ever think that you should just wipe the slate and just basically hire people to do all that? You hire the person to you know, answer the emails, and basically you just go back to your basement and just think, what, I'm 22, like, what are people my age doing? Like, what is an actual human right now doing? Not like someone that's trying to be a businessman and try to be like, okay, I'm going to design this in Figma and I'm going to do this and I'm going to make a website. Sure. Do you think it's that the magic was that you were just an innocent human?
It's sort of a question that's almost like asking an artist if doing art full time still feels like art. I think that curiosity is good to an extent. There is such thing as being too curious, though. Yeah. I have many people that I know, and also many that I look up to, that I think struggle with being too curious, in a sense that they are so interested in understanding everything about the world that even getting to a point of understanding is enough. You know, there are people that want nothing more than to understand. And I'm not driven in that way. Like, I do want to understand, but it's always for a purpose. And if that purpose isn't applicable to something in my life, I have a limited amount of interest towards it.
So understand and execute. Understand and build something.
I would say, like, maybe directional curiosity. Directional curiosity is incredibly useful. But when the curiosity is not directional and intentional, it becomes harmful. Yeah. So for me, that has been helpful, and certainly like freeing up time, finding people that are much better at my job than I am, is incredibly valuable for that. But I don't think that even if I wanted to, I would ever be able to go back to my basement and feel like I did when I was 16 doing that, because I truly didn't feel any strings. There were no strings attached.
I wonder if it's that, though, the feeling. And, you know, it's back to what we said earlier about, I mean, personally, again, when I've made the best decisions in my life, it's been the most boring things and I've never planned it. Do you ever think that it's not about feeling it? You didn't feel this feeling, or did you? Maybe when you were younger, but just having a blank mind and just pursuing whatever you want to do. But anyway, we've spoken a lot about that. Let's get back to Dino. Sorry, that was good. It's interesting though, because I think about that. But okay, so all right then. So you're a kid in your basement. You're building Dino. You found a guy that you like his vision. You want to get involved, so you start building. So you have this curiosity. You've got this idea. You're building. Let's talk about execution. So yeah, you've pointed out that obviously. I personally feel that a lot of academics they get caught up with trying to learn everything and then never execute. And I think there's a inside joke in many institutions. It's like, why would you want a guy driving a Toyota Prius to class to teach you about business? You know, he's never done it, but he's so knowledgeable about it. He's never actually done it, but he's so knowledgeable. So you learn from him. Like execution is huge. So how are you executing? Like, are you waking up each morning at like what 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock? What are you doing? Like, are you blocking it out? Like, I know it's probably changed, but like really back then, I think this is really what not a lot of people talk about. A lot of people think that, okay, we're going to go straight in. We're going to do 3-4 hour blocks, and we're going to, download this app that I tick things off, and we're going to be a CEO. But getting started back then, how were you executing?
Yeah, getting started back then, how I was executing. Back in the beginning.
Well, look, you've done it. You've ridden it up. You've gone from small stage to medium to large. Like, yeah, back then, what were you actually doing? And not now. Sorry, I know the old memory bank. So if you want a minute, that's no worries. But back then, what were you doing?
It's relatively clear. I mean, what I was doing back then was doing whatever it took to just ship a product as quickly as possible. If I didn't know design, I would learn design. If I didn't know how to like build the feature, I would figure out how to build the feature and then build the feature. And I would do it like my
life
ass was
depended
on
on
fire.
it. Yeah.
Like I would do it as quickly as I possibly could. Even if that meant pulling all-nighters all the time.
What's an all-nighter to you? What define an all-nighter? Talk me through. If you were going to say I'm going to do an all-nighter tonight, what is that?
For me, an all-nighter would be if we're like super close to shipping something and we just need to get it across, and we have like a push. We got to do a push. Then like get on the phone and like just make the push, write the code, do whatever it takes.
Just do it, yeah.
And don't stop. Don't go to sleep until it's done. And that repeatedly has absorbed many nights.
I bet. I know. Believe me, lost a lot of sleep.
Yeah, for sure. But that was what all-nighters were to me then, for sure, and still are to an extent. Yeah.
Okay. I feel sometimes in life, like, you watch a lot of these reels on Instagram of these people like productivity hacking. I'm sure, these days you do it, but I wonder if it is literally just stop, put down the apps. I'm sure different things work for different people, but it's interesting back then that, you had this curiosity, you built a really successful product. I read something on your website. Well, how much market share did you have over the Dino modules again?
I don't remember the exact number. I should, but
wasn't it?
It was significant. It was.
Yeah.
We attacked probably like 30 to 40% of the market within like 2 months. It was huge.
Yeah. Okay. So just get it done, basically. Don't worry about the structure. Back. I'm sure maybe it's different now, but back then it was just get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It still is. It still is.
It still
just
is
get it done.
for you? Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
So you don't mess about with any productivity hacking or anything like that. Like
getting it done
lists.
And productivity are the same thing.
Well, when I say productivity hacking, I mean more so some people. I've seen some really weird things. Some people they'll light a candle, and then when the candle's done, they'll stop for an hour, and then they'll light another candle. You don't do any of that.
No, I just don't stop.
Okay.
like if a job needs to get done, like we just do it.
Okay.
Like just do it. Like just don't worry about the candle. Don't worry about like eating, sleeping, none of that. Like everything in moderation. No moderation. Just.
Do you ever get a
it
cheeky
done.
takeaway in the night? Stock
takeaway?
up, yeah.
Sure. DoorDash. That's super efficient.
Are you
very,
still a big
very good.
DoorDasher?
Every day, all the time.
Every day. What, breakfast,
Every
lunch,
meal.
and dinner?
Yep.
Okay.
Saves time because then I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean up. I also get to eat whatever, I can like vary the food.
I won't believe on this. I know.
I'm not proud of it from a lifestyle perspective, but from a productivity perspective, it saves me over 30 hours of travel time every month. 30 hours. That's like almost what a 9-to-5er would consider a full work week.
Work week. Yeah.
A work week I spend or I save by eating at home every month.
All right, mate. Okay, all right then. So we're 16. We're working like crazy. We're not watching TikTok to watch productivity hacking. We're just getting it done. We're door dashing if we're hungry, and we're moving. Okay, so I think the nitty gritty most people know by now. I think it's the magic that some people don't have. Like what I mean by magic is it's that drive that I don't want to sleep. I just want to push it. I think learning to code and stuff, you're just building a product. You can watch YouTube. These days, people just use an AI. So I think it's that magic that people are missing. So it's interesting to hear that, yeah, you're just getting it done.
I don't even know if it's magic, man.
To me, it's
this
magic.
might be a hot take, but
Okay.
I don't think I believe in that magic. No. I think that
Are you hard? Is it pain that drives you? I've always wondered this. Is it that you are not going to finish? You're not getting any respect from me unless you finish this. Is that what drives you?
sometimes.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, I think that more importantly though, it's like commitment. There's two things that I think this generation is lacking that it makes me sad to think about sometimes, but to talk about it.
Yeah.
The first one is commitment, and the second one is knowing what they care about, like caring about something deeply,
Okay.
like feeling something deeply that isn't necessarily about another person, but about a subject or an idea or a concept.
But that's the magic. I can see it in your eye. You're
No,
getting pumped up.
it's not.
I can see that blood vein. You go, that's the magic.
I care about it because I've spent a long time thinking about this and wondering, like, why is this going this way for me? Like, I don't and I really, truly do think that most people spend most of their time reacting to what's in front of them rather than thinking very carefully about where they want to go in life and then charting the course and just doing it.
Okay.
Most people are creating reasons, whether they think they're not good enough, they think they need to depend on someone else for something, they don't think they're creative enough. No. It's purely a function of how much you want it.
Okay.
And I want it.
I know you do, mate. So why do you want it?
Why do I want it?
Yeah, what is it? Why do you want it? Why wouldn't you just sit back and, like, earn 6 figures, work at a bank, you know what I'm saying? Like, go to uni. Like, why do you want it? What is it? What do you not know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the answer to that question. I think that I've always valued being able to make decisions for myself. Like some people are like afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of not having a sense of free will. And free will it's an illusion.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know I don't truly have free will because I can't become a bird right now. But
Yeah.
but I like feeling the ability to make a decision for myself. And the thought of not being able to do that, it's paralyzing.
So you would never
It's
work for another man or
not to say that. Not to say that. The reason I say that is because I value autonomy higher than pretty much anything else.
Okay.
And working in a startup and doing something that I care about, like, it's kind of the perfect mix of things for me. It's like I can work on something that I believe in. I don't have to worry about working for other people, even though I am working for my investors and I'm working for my team. It's, it's different than reporting to someone and doing strictly what they say because they said it.
Yeah.
And I value that. So for me, that's why I've wound up on this path. And also, I think it's the greatest opportunity to own the work that I'm doing. I've always cared about feeling ownership over my work, and this has certainly been the best way to feel that ownership.
Okay, that's nice. I like that. All right, then. This is good. Okay. I think let's start talking about crypto.
Okay.
So me and you, we got into crypto quite young. I think everyone has a story of, if they're out and about with their friends, Dogecoin was a huge thing. Everyone's really heard of crypto, seen it on TikTok, been down the pub, someone's bought SafeMoon, they've lost 60 quid. We've all heard about it, but you've actually worked in it. Your first project, it was Verto? First crypto project? Or
Technically not my first crypto project, but certainly my first venture-funded crypto project was Verto, yeah.
Let's have a chat about that then. So I know the story, so I'm sorry, but we're going to talk about this. I know I've always asked you about this, and always been fascinated by this, but just for the purpose of being able to share this on the internet, let's talk about Verto. So, you know, let's talk about the story of clicking on a Brave ad and going from there.
Okay. So curiosity leads me to clicking on ads sometimes.
Yeah.
And I clicked on an ad that was talking about being able to store a piece of data for over 200 years for a one-time fee. Yeah. And I was like, what the heck? That sounds interesting. So I'm going to click on it. Led me to a website called Arweave, arweave.org. And there wasn't too much there at the time. There were games where people were like, you could play chess, and there was this thing called the permaweb where it was like the web, but it was permanent. I was like, what? This is interesting.
Yeah.
And when Dino came around and I started thinking about how can I make sure that this link is never going to break, the first thing I thought of was like, oh, permaweb. Like, we should just figure out how to put this code on the permaweb. And that was really how I got into Arweave. That product, as you mentioned, it ended up growing pretty substantially. As a weekend project, it had 50 plus open source contributors that were just pushing code. I met my co-founder
hyperbolic growth. Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, like people were they just loved the product, and that was my first like taste of product market fit, and it is a very distinct feeling. I can't really describe it, but you know it when you have it. And I just continued being curious about Arweave because permanent data at the time, people realized like it was created in 2017 to archive newspaper clippings. But then shortly after they realized Arweave that, you know, you can actually upload entire websites.
Yeah.
This gave way to the permaweb. What else was possible? You know, we're now like hosting games and apps and code, and what else can we do? Because no one's even considered this before, but yet it's still in crypto. How is it possible that such a small corner of the world exists that no one's ever heard of and could be potentially so meaningful for society, and yet no one's heard of it? It's like it's like mind-boggling to me. It feels almost like an arbitrage opportunity. So I continued building things on it. It became obvious that if people were going to be building applications on the permaweb, there needed to be an economy so that people could monetize those applications and do it sustainably. And if there's going to be an economy, then you need a way to circulate value. You need like a beating heart for money to flow in that environment. And that's what Verto became. Verto became the first decentralized exchange that was built on a permanent data layer. And it was fun for me because everyone that I talked to was trying to tell me that it wasn't possible. They were like, what? Arweave is just storage. Like, you can't build an exchange on that. Like, it's like trying to build an exchange on a hard drive. But we figured out a way to build it, and we built it. And, you know, that's a story in and of itself, but that's kind of how it got off the ground.
Got it. So you had previous experience working at Dino where you're importing packages through a URL. I'm really trying to dumb this down because most of the listeners won't be native to code. So basically, you're working in Dino. You founded this project called Nest.land, which basically allowed you to work with this new sort of software that this guy you admired built. You thought it was super cool, so you're working here. You're allowing software to run in this environment, and now using that experience, you've realized that you can have these this open source software basically last forever for a one-time fee, and so then you've looked into that, and then now you're basically looking at this thing called the permaweb and Arweave, which is the thing that allows you to store data for 200 years, and you've realized that there needs to be a way to exchange value in this new realm of software. Okay, so people didn't like it. People were like, what?
People didn't think it was possible.
Okay.
They were surprised.
How do you deal with that? So I deal with pushback all the time. Like, whenever someone says, like, you know, tries to belittle you. And like, you know, we've all met people that just like to put you down because, to be honest, it makes them feel vulnerable that they should be doing it. Like, how do you deal with that sort of feeling of jumping on a call and being so excited about something, and then someone just is trying to put you down? Like, do you have any coping mechanisms?
Well, for us, whenever someone told us that it wasn't possible, we would just send them a link of the product that worked. And it was pretty difficult to argue with that.
Okay.
But in general, I would say that it's tough for sure. It tests whenever you're going to market to fundraise for an idea or you believe in something that no one else knows about. You will be your conviction in yourself will be tested. Your confidence, your self-confidence will be tested. And I see it as a filter, because what it does is it basically filters out all the people that might not be doing the right thing for the right reason. And if the only reason is you just care about the idea so much and you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen, then chances are you're willing to feel like an idiot to make it happen. And that is a side effect. But I also think that, you know, I've always tried to be the stupidest person in the room.
Okay.
Because if I'm the stupidest person in the room, I have the greatest amount to learn compared to everyone else.
What do you think about that? Have you ever heard the quietest person in the room? Have you ever heard of that? The quietest
I have
person
heard
in the
that
room,
one. Yeah.
you know, is the most powerful. Do you ever think about that one?
When I first got into like hosting meetings and like running the company, when it turned from a weekend project into a full-time effort that many people were betting things on that were very significant in value, that was when I started thinking, okay, well, how are we actually what's it gonna take to make this real? And make it real in a sense that like it needs to keep growing. We need to roll the snowball down the hill. And that requires, I think it requires good leadership. And I believe that, you know, allowing other people to talk first is meaningful towards that. But I haven't considered it past that point. Okay. I just think it's helpful.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I took that quote very seriously for a few months, and I just realised that I'm just not saying anything and not meeting anyone. You laugh, but I thought I was the man strolling down to London. I'm the quietest in the room.
You are.
I just didn't meet anyone. Huh? I'm the man. Well, I'm my own man, but I've been a dumb man. But I'm trying to learn from the best. So, okay, got it. So basically, you're starting now to think about leadership. You're starting to think about how to grow this beyond you being in a room at 16. So let's talk about fundraising. So you fundraised for this idea, right? You know, you raised
Verto,
from
yes.
For Verto. You raised from venture capitalists, angels, investment firms, right? Whole wide array. We've spoken a lot about fundraising, and my opinion on fundraising is a love-hate relationship, to be honest with you. As you know, at the moment, I've really had a huge crash recently and realised that, you know, I've been idolising the wrong people in this world. That fundraising isn't what it's about at all. It's all about the product. Fundraising is just fuel for the rocket ship to go off. But at the end of the day, the rocket and the destination is what it's all about. So, but let's touch on the fundraising. So, what happened, mate? You know, how much did you raise? What was going on?
My first round, we raised about $270K. My second round, we raised about $4 million. We then did a $2 million extension on top of that as like a bridge. Okay. Because there was an institution that wanted to come into the round, but we didn't have room for them to at the time. And then when we decided to go the direction of building a venture studio, that was going to require a lot more capital.
But hold on, on Verto for now. I know. We've got, you know, you've done multiple rounds, but so how old are you at this time? 16?
I was 17.
17. Okay, so you're 17 and you were given 270K. Did you say?
That's right.
Right. So, yeah, what was that like? You know, you're 17,
weird.
Mate. Yeah, I bet.
Weird.
Yeah.
It was super weird. I remember having some pretty like big problems with that actually. Number one, I was supposed to be applying to colleges at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was difficult to think about that. I had some help. My sister's better at writing than me anyway.
Oh, right.
Not talking more about that.
Yeah.
The other problem was I was too young to get a bank account for the company
Yeah.
to even receive the funds
Yeah.
when I was 17. So fortunately, we closed the round in like January, and in February I turned 18. So when the clock struck midnight on February 16th, the very first thing I did was open a Mercury bank account
cool.
so that we
Nice.
could actually receive the capital.
Yeah.
And after that point, I mean, we were still in the middle of the pandemic, so things were super weird. Like I had decided to drop out of a lot of classes, and I wasn't doing the best as a student. But I was still pushing forward and doing a lot. And that was also the first time that, I realized we could pay ourselves for the work that we were doing. And up to that point, I hadn't even considered it. I was doing it for free. Everyone was. We were having fun.
Hey, Dory. Tate's dog, Dory. Okay, so yeah, I think most people though, they would have wanted to pay themselves six figures, like gone crazy. When I was 17, damn mate, I just started drinking in the UK. It was nuts. Like really, I wanted to start making money. I want to start being able to buy things. I'm 17 now. I'm about to be a man. I'm going out. I'm wanting to meet people. Suddenly, people are talking to me. I'm interested. I'm talking to adults, and you've got 270k in the bank. How did you deal with that? I remember you back in those days. I think I think I didn't meet you before the raise, but I remember talking to you about it. But how did you deal with not spending it and blowing it up the wall on yourself on things, or have you never really had that problem?
I mean, my cost of living was zero. Like, what was I going to use the money for?
No, buy a car.
Buy a car.
17.
Okay, so there was no reason. I had a car that worked, right? Like,
Okay.
I could, there are a lot of things that you could do, but I think at that point, I was just excited to be able to pay other people. Like, I didn't need to make money. I've never really also placed value on money itself, at least more than it's worth, from the standpoint of if I don't need the thing, then why would I spend on it?
Did you get a huge adrenaline rush when you closed that round from the
Yes.
money?
For sure, that was my first exposure into capital, and that kind of changed my worldview.
How did the adrenaline rush compare to when you did that 2 mil extension? Did it dull?
10 times more the very first time.
Really?
2 million.
It kept moving up.
2 million was insignificant.
Got it.
Yeah, compared to the first 200K.
Okay, so at this point then we've raised 270k. You've got that in the bank, and how much did you say you did? Did you say you did? What did you do after the 270k?
We did about 4 million.
And then you did a 2 mil extension. So this is all for Verto, right?
Yes, Verto and our other product that we had launched. My co-founder had started again as a weekend project and became a flagship product. Was the first wallet in the Arweave ecosystem that supported connecting to other apps.
What is a wallet?
A wallet is essentially your account. It was the account for people that were on the permaweb.
Okay, so just to give a little bit more context, so you need an account in order to log in to basically the permaweb and access this permanent data storage.
That's right.
And beforehand, it was a kind of imagine a password that was like hundreds of characters long, and you just cannot write it down. It's just crazy. So you basically made a wallet, some software to be able to do this, but with like a 8-digit password, so normal people could in theory download this and use it. Okay. Right, so it sounds like you're very responsible back then, which you were. You were responsible, yeah.
I tried to be.
So okay, so you're hiring and firing people. Did you ever feel pressured to kind of now change, now be the businessman, now be the guy that has money in the bank? You're now hiring and firing. That you need to now change from that 16-year-old that's just been looking at Dino modules.
Definitely. There was positive vectors for change and negative vectors for change. So the negative was one of the counterintuitive things when you raise venture capital is investors encourage you to spend the money very quickly. And I was like, why? Why would you encourage me to do this? But what I realized was they want me to spend the money quickly so that I need to go back to market and raise again, so that they could either buy more or so that they knew if I was going to be successful or not, they could find out sooner rather than later. And that's one of those like perverse incentives that founders don't share with investors. Founders' incentives are make the runway last as long as you possibly can so that your company has every chance at succeeding. And investors are looking for results as quickly as possible. And in crypto, with velocity of capital being so high, you know, the intention is to see things happen very quickly, pushing for launching a token, pushing for liquidity so that people can have the same effect as going public in the real world, or in the traditional world, without all of the strings attached, you know.
Yeah. So just to drill down on that, you know, obviously whenever you have a company, there is stocks and shares in that company, and essentially going public is basically that stock being traded on the market. In crypto, there is a similar thing where projects, you know, like Tate's wallet, and his Everto, the decentralized exchange, he could basically launch a token. And be able to obviously have that publicly traded, and it would have a value assigned to it. So obviously investors that have invested and bought some of these tokens now could, in theory, generate a return of that investment. So investors want you to launch a token as soon as possible so they make their original money back so they can invest in more things, or in most cases buy a Lamborghini. Joking. Well, but okay, right. All right then. So you're building 2 products. You've raised some money, you're hiring and firing. Let's talk about some of the people you hired. You know, going back to what you said earlier, you had people contributing to your GitHub, where the code is being stored, just for nothing, right? You were just able to build up that community, and people just wanted to get involved. Not necessarily you were putting out job adverts, were you? You know, how in the beginning then. So, did you feel pressured to work with either the open source developers or hire people, or did you not have anything like this?
We got super lucky. One of the unintentional side effects of going down rabbit holes that are like deep tech, like following the founder of Node.js down a rabbit hole to see what he's doing and building on that technology, is that the other people around you are like for me at least, I was like 16 interested in this, but most of the people around me were savants. They were brilliant, because the type of person that would go down that rabbit hole is either an idiot like me that's just curious, or someone with intention that is brilliant and really just wants to build something and has a much more formed opinion on Node.js versus Dino. And so for me, I got really lucky because talent for us, technical talent, was never, and still hasn't been, a problem. We were surrounded by the best people in the world on day one. And that's something that I think is worth talking about, because I think that most people consider the best of the best to live in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
But they're not the best. They're not often the best. The best people are the ones that no one's ever heard of, that are so good they don't even need to be heard of, because they're like shadow. They live in the shadows, do whatever they want, and don't have to worry about recognition for anything. You know, there were people that I met. One of them, his name was Divi. He lived in India, and he started doing some work for us on an open source basis, and I got to know him better. He was 13. He was 13, and he was writing his code on a Chromebook. But this guy was brilliant.
Nice.
Like, he could do the work of 10 full-time engineers by himself.
Okay.
And so for us, we very quickly we built a reputation as becoming the fastest at execution on this stuff, because of the people that I was lucky enough to just be around in that first product that we built. Building relationships with them and convincing them to join the ride. That's also another vector of change to the previous question that you asked. I became very quickly the worst engineer on the team. I was awful at what I did compared to everyone else that was around me, and no one else really took an interest in the business side. You know, when I was like, guys, like, someone wants to invest money into this business, they're like, okay, that's cool. Like, I just want to like write code. And I was like, no, like, you could do that full time if we like figured out how to make this work. So it pushed me to focus more on business and to start studying it and to actually become legible in that, because number one, I was the worst engineer, and number two, no one else wanted to do the job. So that was another, I guess, like push for change that I'm very grateful happened. Of course, now I have imposter syndrome when I think about being an engineer again. I really,
I was going to ask about that. Do you regret that?
I don't regret the decision that I made to deprioritize writing as much code as I used to. But I do certainly hope that there will be a time in my future where I can go back to that.
Is that because you want to go back to that because you think it will benefit your trajectory, or is it more just because you miss doing it?
I miss doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I was really bad. Like I am really bad at it compared to most people, but I really enjoyed it at the time. And I also, you know, when I introduce myself to someone, I am an engineer. Like I identify as an engineer. You know, and so I think that for me, not writing code but still calling myself an engineer, I worry that maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I shouldn't even be identifying by this anymore. And I don't know what to make of that yet. I want to spend more time writing code again, and hopefully I can build my confidence back. But for now, that's something I struggle with.
Okay, interesting. Wow, so let's take in. Okay, interesting. Let's move on. I think, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes let me touch on that. So you introduce yourself as Tate the engineer, and
For
you
sure.
think, and then you compare yourself to other. And I'm not saying I do this, but you compare yourself to other people and think that everyone's better than you at coding, and that you wish you could come back to it. And like you're comparing yourself and saying you're a bad engineer. That's what you just said, right? Do you really think that?
I am definitely a bad engineer compared to the people on my team. The people on my team are the best engineers in the world, and I stand by that. So yes.
So what do you and this could be wrong, but you know, yin yang, positive, negative. So you think you're a bad engineer compared to the people on your team, your own words. So what would you say that you're good at? And that I don't know if it's called a loaded question, but like if I'm completely wrong, but if you think you're bad at this, what would you say is the thing that you think that you're just good at? Or do you not think of it like that?
I'm 22, man. Like I don't really think I can be good at anything at this age. I think that
Well, Divi was 13. He had the power of over 10
no,
people.
but you don't understand. This guy was a god.
Yeah, and he's
This guy was
13. Age has
crazy.
nothing to do with it. He's
That's fair.
22.
That's fair. What I would say is I think I've never wanted to be the best at something. I've never been interested in being the best at one thing. But what I am interested in is finding areas and corners of the internet and of the world that like other people don't spend time in. Like something that's like unique or interesting to me. I care more about being singular than the best.
Okay.
I don't like competitions.
Zero. No, what was it? Yeah, Peter Thiel, 0 to 1. That's no competition. That's create our own.
Yeah, like yeah. I would rather like make my own game than play in other people's games. And so for me, I've always been interested, and I've spent a lot of time talking with some of the people here about the combination of skills. Like it's incredibly rare to find people that have certain types of seemingly unlikely skill combinations. And I don't think I'm particularly great at business, and I don't think that I'm particularly great at writing code, but I can do both of those in a way that's like I survive. And I think that for me, I'm happy with that. Like I want to be better at both of those things. I want to continue getting better, but I never want to be the best business person, and I never want to be the best engineer. I don't really think that I'm capable of that. I think that I'm more so driven by just being whatever I need to be to solve the problem at hand. And if I can say that I was able to do that in enough different contexts, for me, that's satisfaction. I can feel good about that.
I like it. Yeah, I think some people, like so sprinters, 100-meter dash. Some people want to be the best, the fastest.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt, they want to be the best, but you would say you want to be more of a well-rounded problem solver rather than the best at something, right?
Well-rounded, but I don't even know. I don't know if you would consider me well-rounded in that sense. Like,
You want to have the tools to be able to, have a problem and be able to tweak it.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Yeah.
Like, if I can know how to solve as many different types of problems as possible, like, that's cool. I like that, because that also, it gives me optionality. It gives me agency. It gives me a sense of autonomy.
Okay. All right. By the way, how long have you got for this? We're coming up to the 50-minute mark.
I'm fine.
You're good? Okay,
Mhm.
cool. All right then. So, right. Okay. So now we are basically at the point where your Verto, which is the decentralized exchange, then you've got the wallet and stuff. Things are moving. You've got money. You're hiring, firing. I don't really want to talk about like the skills you learn. I think people can read business books and watch hiring and demos for this. But okay, so you transition now, I guess, into community labs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. So, yeah, you're building multiple things. I think ArtConnect found real product market fit, right? How many users did you have, when you kind of made the transition into community labs? Can you remember?
I want to say we had about 20,000 users around that time.
Wow. So to this stage then, your personal website, I guess, would say, controlled more than 40% of the Dino modules. Then you had how many users with ArtConnect, sorry, again?
Around 20,000.
20,000 users ArtConnect. And then Verto, was that finding product market fit at the time?
Verto was, to an extent. I wouldn't say that the product market fit was nearly as strong as ArtConnect was, though. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So now you kind of feel that you've built a few projects that have been able to find product market fit, and you're transitioning into community labs. Talk to me about that. Why did you want to? Why did you?
So, trouble in paradise. One of the challenges when we found the talent that we found, the people were so skilled, it was incredibly difficult to direct all of that talent towards one seemingly simple problem. It was really two. It was like, how do you build an exchange on permanent data? And then how do you build the universal account system for everyone using this technology? And those two problems are like, they're pretty significant if you're coming into it from the outset and haven't done anything before. But once you've solved them, there's a level of it's tough to keep the attention of the most talented people at that point. And so what we had people that were coming in, doing incredible work with us for a few months, and had never had a job before, or had never, really encountered the real world, doing like the work of a lifetime, unbelievable work with us. And then investors like keying in and being like, oh, hey, you should just like start this company and we'll just invest in it, and then you can have your own thing. That happened 3 times to us, and the value of those companies combined eclipsed 100 million. Actually, I have a revised number on that. It's 400 million now.
Hold on. Whoa. Right.
400
so hold on.
million.
At this time, so with the stats that I've just said,
Yes.
you had a valuation of 100 mil?
No.
400
No,
mil.
so
So
the
not
value
now.
value of the companies that people started that used to work with us.
Oh, I see. Okay.
When I was like the first to discover these people.
Yeah.
I guess I'm taking credit for that, but they
That's
were
okay.
incredible
Yeah,
in and of themselves. The value of those companies is now worth over $400 million.
I've got it. Okay, so basically people kept joining your
Yes.
companies, then they kept basically getting all of this experience and access to your story and all of these investors, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they went.
They
And
left, started
now-
something new.
400 mil.
And now it's 400, and I'm sitting here in my thing, and
Ah.
I'm like, wait a second. That's cool. Like, I'm glad you're doing that, but we kind of helped you there a little bit. Like, maybe we should figure out how to help in a
Right.
way that gives us a piece of it.
Near half a yard, 400 mil, and you're sitting there, and yeah.
And look, I'm more than happy with what we've done, but it is my job to maximize my returns for
Yeah,
my
of course,
investors.
yeah.
And so I was looking at that problem, and I was like, okay, like, we clearly don't have a talent problem. We clearly don't have an execution problem. We actually have a structure problem. The
Yeah.
problem is we can't keep the talent. The churn is too high. And so how do we figure out how to build the company in a way that enables people to do that and actually supports them? Because it's proving to generate significant amounts of value. So how can we just be exposed to that? How can we tap into a percentage of that 400 million so that when they do their life's work, we're able to benefit from it in exchange for all the help that we've provided getting them off the ground in the first place.
Okay, so this is when you're thinking, so you started realizing this at the time. I'm sure people are spinning out, getting fundraisers, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, what am I getting? I'm putting all this time and effort into it.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, like, okay,
Sure.
so I've got it. All right, so you came up with the idea for Community Labs,
Yeah.
this company that basically took fellows in, people. You trained them up, you prepared them, you gave them stories, your experiences, you connected them to people. Okay, this makes sense. Right then, so how did it go?
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, how is it going?
It's a long game. So the challenge with a venture studio, number one, most people have never heard of one. It's kind of a new concept, I guess. But the idea is that half of what you're doing is like starting things, and the other half of what you're doing is investing in them. And going from like founder of a company to investor is not as clear of a transition as one might think. And so having to learn how investors think about evaluating opportunities and how they invest capital, there were a lot of learning curves involved with that. But for us, our biggest challenge has actually been we have no shortage of incredible opportunities for investment. The bigger issue is how do we actually balance the amount of time it will take to receive a return on those investments with the amount of stuff that we want to do in the meantime that will become new investments in the future. In other words, how do we spend and deploy the capital that is inside of the company while not running out of money so that we're around to see the day when those things actually do return the capital that we believe they're capable of doing. So for us, what that's looked like is focusing less on external investment, focusing more on helping people get started inside of the company. We found that we built our own operating model. We've made it extremely capital efficient to start a company. We've also really honed the network of getting them connected to other investors so that process doesn't take ages and is relatively straightforward and is also in a high trust environment with high trust people. And we also are figuring out how to prioritize profitability. How can we actually just offset all of the operating burn of running the venture studio so that all the people that are on payroll that are helping start these companies can continue to do that, and we have this constant stream of bets being made, checks being written, but capital coming in to offset the risk that we're taking by making those bets. That, for me, is the balance that we have to strike, and it's not simple. It's really not simple. But that's the game for us. That's what we're currently focused on and moving towards.
Got it. Okay, so this is a great idea, and you've got the pitch down to a T now. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. The money got bigger at this point, right? So you pitched investors on this idea.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go?
So when we first decided that this structure was what we wanted to try and go for, we realized it would cost around $20 million to actually try it, to practice it, to give it a shot at succeeding. And so I was actually on, I'm not usually this labels me incorrectly, but to be very blunt, I was on a ski lift with a guy. I was on a ski lift at a private mountain that I had been invited to from one of my investors, and I was pitching him this idea, and he was hearing it, and he was like, "Yeah, that's cool." Like, I was like, "Okay, you like it? That's awesome. Are you interested in investing?"
You like it? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I was surprised. I was I haven't seen someone do this structure before.
We're in the door.
This worked. And he was like, "Yeah, put me in for $1 million." And I was like,
"Bloody hell.
We're on a ski lift, man. Like, we're on a ski lift, and you're saying like you want $1 million in this thing? Like, you're willing to?" I was like, "Oh shoot!" And so then he was like, "Hey, you got to talk to this other guy. Next ski lift,
Nice.
go back down the mountain, go back up the mountain. Next guy, $500K." And you just you go on the circuit, and then by the end of that weekend of just skiing with people, we had gotten to $5 million in commitments. And by that point, I was like, okay, I think there probably is an opportunity here. Let me keep talking to people. We ended up getting, I want to say, over $60 million in committed capital. And by that point, I was like, okay, this is like half the budget of.
Doesn't seem real.
This is half the budget of like the Indian
what
military.
Is money? Yeah.
Like we're not. Yeah. Like that's too much.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do with that. So we decided to raise a little bit more than 20, but you know, that's kind of how it got off the ground. That was where we started with it.
Awesome. So how, what's running through your head at this point? I know this must have been such a crazy time for you. You're dealing with your own personal life, your work life. Like, I'm sure there's lots of peer pressure around you. Like, what are you waking up and thinking in the morning? You're waking up and like, you've got all this money, Pete, and you've come up with this idea and you're running up and you're working crazy. Like, what's life like? Like, are you happy? Are you sad? Like, what's the feeling? You're full of adrenaline? Like, what are you doing? Like, emotionally?
Gosh. The pressure was so high that so one of the things when you're raising capital is that it's good to be vulnerable, but there is such thing as you have to balance the vulnerability with the confidence. And that's very hard. It's like extremely hard. I was 19. It was like really difficult to get on the phone and pitch somebody for them to write a check of $10 million in me and be both vulnerable and confident. The vulnerable side is saying, I've never done this before. Like, I have no idea if this idea is going to work, but you're about to write a $10 million check. Are you sure? Like, are we sure that this is, the confident side is like, well, look, I mean, we have a track record on paper. We've done this. We've become the biggest group in the Arweave ecosystem aside from Arweave themselves. And we have a reputation. Like, we're running. And unfortunately for me, a lot of the way to cope with it's a roller coaster for sure. You gravitate between those two extremes multiple times a day, every day. It's like you feel awful about yourself and then you feel amazing about yourself. And that might happen 5 times in a single day.
And just going up and down, up and down.
And so for me, what ended up happening was I actually got depressed.
Did you?
I stopped feeling. I started feeling numb. And it became completely arbitrary because that was really the only way to protect myself from the vulnerability of
just have one flat
of the volatility.
Of nothing.
Yeah.
I can imagine that.
So it was actually really hard, and I don't remember feeling any sort of gratification or excitement about raising that capital.
So that original hit you were saying earlier, you said that first hit, like, then the 2 mil extension, you're like 10 times stronger, and so now you've just raised this round, and you're.
It was the inverse. So the first one was the biggest. The 2 mil was 10 times weaker.
Oh, weaker. Sorry, I thought stronger.
And then, this last one, over 20, was...
you're depressed. What's
didn't
going
feel
on?
like anything. It felt like nothing. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you're in this position, you've started as a 16-year-old kid in the basement of COVID. Many people would have thought at this point they've made it. And, I think society says that, like, money is such a... It's like poison, isn't it? It's like everyone wants it, everyone needs it, and then when you actually get it and consume it, it just sometimes it ruins people. Sometimes people flourish, and it seems like for you, you said yourself, you got depressed. How did you deal with that? Like, have you learned like good coping mechanisms now? Maybe share some of them. Like, are you still in that place? Like, how are you feeling these days?
Definitely a lot better for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was very helpful to find people that were going through similar things at the time, and that was quite difficult for me to find those types of people. But coping with it looked like being honest with people about how I was actually feeling, being honest with the team, being honest with myself, being honest with the investors, and just pushing through. Also, it was like. The advantage of not feeling anything is that you're not really feeling pain when you're working 24 hours a day, every day. So it's unfortunate, but those were actually some of the most productive times.
Would you say you're more productive now or back then?
It's different. I think that what I work on is completely different than what I worked on back then. So I feel productive in a sense that I have a system. I'm getting 8 hours of sleep. I'm eating good food. I'm like getting nutrients. I don't feel horrible every day. But I feel stuff. That's good. It's nice to feel stuff. And I didn't back then.
Would you say your emotional state now is comparable to when you were 16 in that basement in COVID? I don't know if you're in a good space, but do you feel that you're back to normal-ish?
I don't think I'll ever get back to that.
Really?
I don't think I'll ever. It's sort of like... I'm a different person.
Yeah.
There's this like, this is corny, but there's this really wild quote that was actually from a John Wick movie. I don't know if you've ever
No,
watched it.
I've never watched John Wick, but
You
I
would
like
like
the
John
edits.
Wick,
All
but
right.
but the quote is that there is pain that hurts and there's pain that alters.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I like this one.
And I think I was a little bit altered, maybe a little bit altered, but definitely a lot better. But I'm never gonna feel that way again because I never am gonna have no responsibility. That was the last time in my life that I remember having zero responsibility. And it's a double-edged sword. I crave responsibility. I like it. It gives me a sense of purpose and fulfillment. But it is certainly nice to not feel it sometimes. Yeah.
So you're driven, Tate, and I know you can't predict the future, but you're a driven man, right? Would you agree? You're very driven on trying to have your autonomy. You know,
Sure.
You're raising all this money. You're working like nuts. You know, many people when they say, "Oh, I'm going to do an all-nighter," that basically just means they're staying up till 3 a.m. and then they're sleeping. For you, I'm sure that's going all the way.
Sunrise.
Yeah. So, do you think one day you're ever going to stop? And I don't hold you to this, but do you think one day you're going to want to live a normal life, buy a cottage, live in the sea? You know, you've got a dog here, walk the dog every day. Like, do you think you're ever going to get back to that point where you're just going to? I know you are normal, but have a normal, kind of traditional. I guess the word is not normal. Who defines what normal is? But a traditional societal life where you wake up. You get your breakfast, you walk your dog, maybe you talk to someone and you just live a traditional life. Do you ever think you'll get back to that stage again? Do you want that?
I definitely want to have a family one day.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I have no idea how normal that family would be, though. I think that my life was never normal, looking back on it. There were pieces of it that were, but the things that my family talked about, it was always about startups and starting things and building stuff. And yeah, my dad's an engineer. Like, he was always interested in doing his own thing.
Oh, interesting.
I have always been influenced by those things. And that life growing up, I didn't realize it then, but looking back at it now, was very different than the life that other people live growing up in the same town as me. I don't necessarily want normal, but I want to find something that feels sustainable.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a Naval quote that says, happiness is I can't remember the exact quote, but something along the lines of, whatever you feel when you're not working is like, that's
it's something,
who you
isn't it
are.
Something like I remember this might be wrong, but it's something like to say you've got a to-do list. Naval's big thing, isn't it? He doesn't do any meetings. As I say, if you've got a to-do list, the things that you do when you procrastinate is the things that you should be doing all the time. Is that the sort of gist?
Not so much, actually. What I'm referring to is more so, if you were to stop and do nothing, how would you feel?
Mate, I'd hate it. I've tried it unsuccessfully.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And his argument is, you should be able to stop and do nothing and feel good about that.
Okay.
And I can never imagine myself getting there, but I can't help but wonder if there is a version of the world where I would.
Would you say you're desensitized to like money now? Like, you've dealt with so much of it. Like, when you look at, I don't know, I don't want to talk about personal finances, but whenever you go out to, like, say a gas station or something like that, do you look at $60 and think, or is it more so like, oh, I'm responsible and now, like, what is it, $60? Or do you think that you still have that kind of power of money feeling, the value of it?
First, I'll say that my personal finances are nothing to write home about. I am not. Look, we raised money, but that was for the company, and we now have to make returns. Yeah. So that's where the money's going. It's not going to me. I'm not super well off personally. Actually, that's like a different issue.
Well, as you know.
But my relationship with money is different. I value money entirely differently than I used to. What has actually changed the most is how I think about time, where I spend time. I justify paying extra for DoorDash every day because I value the hours that I get to continue working or not working much more than the hours that I would otherwise spend picking up food from somewhere or making that food. It becomes very easy to justify those types of, and maybe that does on paper look like spending money, but if you truly are confident in your ability to make money and you have a system for that, then it makes sense to
Spend
value
the money.
time
Yeah.
more than anything else, and just make sure you're spending as much of it as possible
Yeah.
on the stuff that is the most important to you.
Okay.
That for me has changed more than money itself, for sure.
Right. Okay. So community labs, we've built multiple different things. You know, you've invested in multiple different things. You know, you're doing something different now, right? Like, how's it been going? I know you're still at community labs. Obviously, you know, you're still working on stuff. But now I imagine the kind of mission has changed from when it originally started. Has it, or is it exactly the same? Like, I think, you know, you told me you started out as a developer infrastructure company, right? And then you went more consumer. Like, how's it going these days? What are you working on?
It's good. I think that a lot of the game is seeing what we can do to increase profitability for the company and decrease risk so that we have time for these investments to play out that we've made. We decided to pivot from infrastructure to consumer because it became very clear that what was going to get distribution is where value was going to accrue. And without distribution for the infrastructure itself is actually it's not valuable. Like it can't,
no one's using it.
It can't functionally accrue value. And so we built an entirely new portfolio from the ground up, all focused on consumer, and those teams and those companies and those people are doing like unbelievable work to make that stuff happen. So I feel amazing about that. What I want now is just to see, I want to see them be right. I want to see our thesis on Arweave be right. I want to see other people understanding the value of permanent data storage. And I think that it's inevitable. It will happen. And it's just a matter of time to getting there and how we're going to help it get there.
I see. Cool. I like it. All right. Well, let me ask you a few questions, and then I think we can probably wrap it up there, unless there's anything else you want to talk about. But I think my first question is to someone listening to this right now, who had an idea, and this is regardless of age, regardless of whatever location, like how can they get started to do something like you've done? You know, I know that you're still in pursuit of this mission and things like that, but you're obviously a lot further than where you are when you started. What would you say to someone to try and get them started? And not something that like, I want you to go and read 1 million books, I want you to do all of this. Like the feeling or the emotion, or like really just how should they go about doing it? Like, you know, yeah.
Be deliberate and be intense. Both of those things are choices. A lot of people think that they are, you either have it or you don't. You mentioned it as like magic, but really, it was a choice. It's like, I am not going to sleep until this gets done, and I don't care what's going to happen until it gets done. Like, I will make this happen. And most people don't operate that way, but it truly does come down to a choice that anybody can make. So being curious about those things, about the different opportunities in life, being intense and being deliberate. If you're trying to go down an unorthodox path, I think those are like the 3 key ingredients to doing it.
You know what? I think we should end it there. I think that's a really good note to end on.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you very much
Thanks
for the time.
for having me.
Well, I really appreciate it, mate.
Of course.
Let me ask a question. You know, I'm a bit cheeky, and if you don't ask, you don't get. Is there anyone else that you think that you think would like an interview with me, do a podcast? Anyone?
Probably. How long are you here?
I'm here. I go home tomorrow. Sadly.
What time?
At 7, so I have time in the morning.
7 p.m.
Yeah, flying home at 7 p.m.
Okay. I might have some ideas.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about off camera. I appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Tate Berenbaum, thank you very much.
Thank you.